welcome to season 3. Did you think we'd make it this long? Like, seriously?
Yes.
Wow. You know what? That makes one of us.
Never a
Um,
doubt in my mind.
I admire your faith in this process. Welcome to season 3 of Branding and the Beast, a podcast about branding and design and storytelling and all the things that go along with it. My name is Sean Bernstein. I am the owner and chief storyteller of The Right Stuff Agency, and my co-host.
Alicia DeSantis, owner of 38th and Kip Studio, branding, design, and illustration studio.
I'm so excited to have you back, Alicia. As a spoiler alert, we are re-recording this. We tried doing it a couple weeks ago on the day of the hurricane. Didn't go so well. Alicia lost internet pretty quickly, and that was about the extent of it. So we are back. We are wearing almost matching colors. For those listening on audio, we're in our red era for the Taylor Swift concerts coming up here. Uh, there's a lot of excitement happening.
Maybe Taylor Swift will sponsor us.
Maybe she'll come on the show. Maybe she's got a couple days off between shows and she's just that bored that she's found our podcast. Crazy things have happened.
I will say this. You're not going to be happy. Now, I've never told you this before. Or maybe I
You're
have told you this.
you're not a fan?
I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but I do very much appreciate what a hell of a brand marketer she is. She
Yes,
is,
she
is,
is.
is created one of the cult worthy environmental branding.
She definitely has, and I think she herself has had a lot to do with it, which is what's really unique. A lot of times these artists are not super involved in their own image. I actually think that she is significantly. So
Yeah.
it's impressive. I like the older stuff more than I do the newer stuff, which alone will get me, whipped in the streets. But I am generally a fan, so I'll take it. But everyone's music's a personal thing, man. Everyone's got their own taste.
Well, I digress. Let's talk about what this episode is about.
Should we talk about our format first? Because we're going to change things up a little bit. I don't think we've alerted them as to the chaos we're about to embark on.
Yes.
Got to give them a heads up.
Yes. So, without further ado, I will tell you what the episode is on. Event marketing. How did it take us 2 seasons to get here? I will come back to event marketing, but we have a brand new format I wanted to share with you all. Very, very excited about this. Season 3, we're going to be featuring 2 guests per episode. Often, they may not know each other, have never met each other before. In the case of this episode, they have met each other. 2 folks in similar industries coming together to have a conversation about a certain topic. I'm really excited about this because I think it's going to add a whole nother dimension to the show. And honestly, the more guests we have, the better, because people aren't watching this for us. They're watching it for the guests.
Absolutely not.
Yep.
So, no, I think it's a good idea. I'm excited to see where it goes. I really don't know quite yet what it's going to look like. This will be one of our less controversial episodes because we have 2 guests, like you mentioned, who know each other well. Uh, they have their own opinions on things, and they have their own hot takes in their industry, and you can they've been on each other's. He's been on her podcast several times. They've had many conversations, so you can kind of wind them up and watch them go, which is great. That has benefit. But I think it'll be really fun when we hit the point of having guests who, see the world very differently despite being in the same industry, and can really kind of, butt heads and maybe enlighten our audience a different perspective. So that's what we're hoping, naively to achieve in our 3rd season.
Yes. Yes. I am very excited about this format. I'm very excited about this episode because event marketing, admittedly, is an area I truly know nothing about. It's probably my weakest marketing link. And I have so much respect for event marketers. I've worked with many of them in the past. I've designed trade show booths. So I've been on the design end, but the sheer amount of effort and organization and creativity that goes into being an event marketer is fascinating to me, and one that it quite frankly terrifies me.
The amount of work, and one of our guests I happen to be very close with, and we can talk about that momentarily, but living vicariously through this world and the amount of work and the amount of planning and logistics and strategy that goes into this. The way that I have described it is that if you're at a great event, you don't notice what's going on behind the scenes. You don't think anyone's planning it. You don't give a single thought to the amount of work that went in. But if you're at a bad event, you're at an event where the food runs out, the AV is off, the venue is having issues, etc. The first person you're looking to is who's responsible.
Hmm.
Who's responsible for making such a mess of this? So there is no praise when things go right and all the blame when things go wrong. And that alone is a world that is just hard to comprehend.
Oh, how terrible! I mean, event marketing, or I would call uh, environmental branding, really is what it is at its core, and that's something that is a really powerful component of a company's brand. From I mean, there's so many components to creating environmental branding, that what Taylor Swift does it so well, from the outfits to the just overall aesthetic and mood of every single event, she hosts or she participates in. Um, the the thing that I think is really interesting is, we think back 4 years ago with the pandemic. Everyone was just, in tears that there were no more events. There were no events for a year or two. And people are saying, this is the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to go to an event. I'm going to have a trade show after this is all over. I'm going to meet up and go and do business in person. And it's trended. I think I can check the stats. I think before the pandemic, but certainly after, companies year over year now are investing more and more money into events. It
Yeah,
really is a significant marketing ROI endeavor.
they bring people together. There's no question that events bring people together. And that was one of the hardest parts. Canada was very different than the US. We were locked down for the better part of 2 years. And people really struggled with their mental health at the lack of ability. Even our most introverted friends said, I need people sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love huge gatherings all the time, but I need people sometimes. Like, it is really hard to not be without a flow of people, especially new people. They're how our brains work. They're how we learn new things about the world. They're how we make new connections. They really spur something different in us. So without those new folks, you don't, as much as the internet's a magical place, as much as it can be a treacherous place. There's a lot of amazing things that happen on here. The fact that we can host this podcast, be in completely different countries, let alone cities, and do this together
Yeah.
seamlessly. That's all wild. But it doesn't replace the joy of when you and I get together in person, for example,
Right.
or, when we get to spend time together, any of us in that face to face environment. You cannot, we are not robots. We're becoming robotic, but we're not robots. You cannot replace that human experience of being together in a room.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much psychology that goes behind creating an event, whether it's with 5 people, a small round table, or an international event. Uh, it's it's a truly a fascinating industry, and a fascinating component of marketing, and one that I don't think gets enough attention.
Hmm.
And I'm excited because I want to dive into the nuances and the challenges and the opportunities and all these things that no one really talks about outside of the event marketing bubble. I feel like the event marketers all just talk to themselves.
Do you have? I know you go to some industry events, in your world, and you've been in a couple states and gone to different things in different
Yeah.
areas. Do you have events in your mind that stick out that have been really powerful experiences for you of things that you've seen done really well?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is when I was at the startup at Pop Menu, the last year I was there, Invested a huge amount of money into the National Restaurant Association.
Mm.
Um, Unfortunate acronym. uh, to
Not
have
to be confused.
a double decker booth where the
Wow.
upstairs was a bar, essentially. So
Oh, cool.
I was responsible for the design of the booth. You know, the banners and all the different pieces that go into that. But there had to be a fire marshal come and check it out, and like security and all this stuff, and it was it was impressive, but you basically are building a house
Yep.
for 3 days.
Yep.
And it's bizarre. Um, I will say one of the best events I've ever been to was the Think Co-op Think. It's a
Okay.
very large, probably the second largest credit union event in the nation. I won a scholarship to go in
Cool.
Miami Beach, and the food was incredible. That's what stands out to me, the food. And there was so much coffee all the time,
Mm.
and there were a lot of bathrooms.
Yep.
And it's
These
funny
are the
how
kind of
like
things that you
that stays.
notice. That's and it's so because it's the little things become the big things, right? This is exactly what you would notice and go, oh yeah, if there were not enough bathrooms, not enough coffee, you'd remember that too.
Exactly. Exactly. So what about you? I know you go to more events than I do because you're live in a big city and like
Yeah,
have fun things to
I
do.
it's an interesting question because I get to go to a lot of events, especially now, living with an event planner, I get to go to a whole lot of events. Not so much of her work, little sort of bits and pieces, but I go out a lot. I do a lot of networking. I always have. For me, my business has always, whether I've been practicing law or running the right stuff, my business has always thrived on meeting new people. So there's always a need to network and a need to get to events. One of the ones that really sticks out in my mind was from probably 20 plus years ago before I started doing any of this. I was still a student, and I used to go to something called Idea City. And Idea City was started by a fellow named Moses Znaimer, who Canadians might recognize, Americans wouldn't. Um, he started one of the major television stations up here, uh, one of the three sort of major now national TV stations. He also started Much Music, which anyone on the border might know. It's Canada's answer to MTV.
Mm.
He was, instrumental in putting that together. A real visionary in the creative world, and his whole theory is that ideas change the world. And so he wanted to bring together some of the top minds that he could get his access to, and really bring them together for sort of a 3 day symposium on, this was kind of TED Talks before TED Talks were big,
Mm. Yeah.
but finding ways to really have people exchanging their ideas. And it was wonderful. You got some really big names, some really influential people in these rooms together unguarded, without their PR team, without their flack, without, surrounded by a whole lot of folks. It was just them having conversations, a lot of very influential people, because when you put those people together in a room, uh, they come up with ideas. So we have Evan Babins and Shanondoah Nicholson on the show. Evan has 10 years experience in corporate event production. Throughout his career, he's had the chance to manage event logistics and technical event production for many world-class clients like Nissan Canada, Equitable Bank, Kia Canada, Novartis, and TD Bank, to name a few. He's worked both in live and in virtual and hybrid event spaces, honing his craft as a top tier event industry trendsetter. My God, did you write this? Eesh. Evan has been included in BizBash's top 250 event professionals. And it goes on like this. Eventex's top 15 most influential event technology professionals, Bizabo's top 55 event experience leaders, and Special Event Magazine's top 20 young event pros to watch lists. Your PR firm is doing a bang up job. Um, Evan currently, as of time of recording, works at Intuit Canada on the QuickBooks Canada event team. I think the move is now public, we can say. So, is moving shortly to Bank of Nova Scotia, which is an exciting new opportunity. And he's producing internal and external live events directed at the accountant and bookkeeper channels for the moment across Canada. So that is Evan in a very, very, very large nutshell. Shenandoah happens to be my wife. I'm going to, disclose my conflict of interest out there. When I met her, she was in the early days of her event planning career, and over a decade later, has become an absolute rock star in the industry, proclaimed by others, not self-proclaimed. She has spent over a decade producing events of all sizes, largely in the SaaS and technology sectors, but also in everything from insurance to human resources to geolocation, with a really incredible suite of experiences to go with it in cities across Canada, the US. And have you done international or not really? US is
I
international,
mean,
so
the
across
U.S. is
Canada and the
international.
US, pretty avidly. Works harder than truly anyone I know. Has also earned her CMP several years ago, her MBA from University of Fredericton, and is a recognized thought leader in the industry and the host of Evan's favorite podcast, Beyond the BEO. Only because Evan gets a chance to talk
That's for
unfiltered
sure.
without me bullying him. So that's his favorite podcast. But grateful to have you both here. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
I'm gonna get hell for that intro later, but you know what? I will take it. Uh,
Is that the one that we're actually going to keep for the final
I
output? I
I would
hope. Yeah.
imagine. Yeah, we're keeping all of this. I don't edit a thing. I am the laziest man alive. So all
Oh
that
yeah,
10 minutes
I love
of
it.
me darting back and forth in rooms, that's all staying in. Yeah,
we're gonna keep it.
that is the
Love
blooper
it.
reel.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it.
How do you guys get started in your careers? How did this all kind of come to be?
Do you want to go first? Because my story is probably going to be longer. Sure. I mean, I think you and I started in the industry about like the same time. My love of events started on prom committee. I volunteered for prom committee and I loved it. And then for a couple of years thought I wanted to be a wedding planner, and then for many reasons decided that that was not a great idea. I got a job as a receptionist at a software company. It was meant to be a temporary contract role after I got back from a working holiday. And from there, I started working really closely with the sales team and working on some of their events, and realized, hey, this is actually what I like to do. Corporate events, with either marketing or partnerships or sales kickoff. And then it just kind of blossomed from there. So I went back to school a couple of times, and then just kind of kept honing in those skills, asking for more and more event projects, and then was off to the races in the events industry. So yeah, my stories are like similar, but also a little different. So I actually DJ'd my high school prom, so similar but not. I started in the industry in 2005 DJing. Then that led to what I call the 360-degree view of the events industry. So I started off through the AV production side. So I started an AV company in Toronto that's still in existence. From there, I went hospitality. So I worked for a lot of the large event venues in Toronto, first in operations, then in sort of team management and event management. Then decided that the 90-hour work weeks were not enough for me. I wanted to sort of cut down on the 90-hour weeks, and I went down to the 70-hour weeks when I went corporate event production agency side. So I worked for different agencies, managing events, producing events literally around the world and back, across Canada, the US, and into Europe. Then I went, my last checkpoint on the 360 tour was in-house planning. So that's when I was at Equitable Bank and a few other places in-house where I planned brand side directly. So working with agencies, working with partners, being on the brand side. And then the last sort of number of years, pre and post COVID, I've been back and forth agency and internal. And as Sean mentioned, I guess at the time of launch of this, I will have made the move from Intuit to Scotiabank, where I'm on the event team as the event production manager, where we manage and execute events for the bank across the city and across the country.
I am so tired.
In general, or just from listening to the two of that?
And
It's only been 12 minutes of this podcast so far.
I'm tired because I've never felt so lame in all my life after listening to you two.
Well, Sean hasn't told his story
I-
yet, so there's still hope.
I have not
I
stopped
know
telling my
Sean's
story. It's
story.
exhausting.
Oh man. So before you two got on the call, Sean and I were talking, of course, about Taylor Swift. And he loves her. I'm not a fan. I will say that. And I will leave the house today and I will be
Not until this
stoned
drops. You got about
publicly
2 months
in the
of safety.
street. I got about 2 months to get my will in order and all that. We talked about how she is truly masterful in event marketing and what I would call environmental branding, right? Experience branding, and what it takes to create something so compelling for people being in person in a very digital world that we're living in. And I've done design work with events, as graphic design, but no means have I done anything with event planning. So my question to you, and Evan, I'll ask you this first: why is this component of branding and marketing, events, so important to brands, to building a brand and being a successful organization?
Yeah, so the last, I'll say, 5 years in events, the event world, we have really proven that, and I'm going to say in person, let's remove COVID for the equation for a minute. In-person events are the number one channel for your go-to-market strategy in marketing and events world across the world. Industry, doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter what you're doing. In-person events where you can meet people face to face, that you can shake their hands, you can give them a hug, you can hear a speaker speak in person, you can go to a networking event in person, you can go to a mingle thing happening somewhere, is your number one go-to market strategy. We've proven that. There's statistics, there's information that's been proved about that. And so when it comes to the branding side of things, the way a brand tells their story is not through who's on the stage. It's not through who's speaking at a breakout room. It's not who you're meeting and who's DJing the opening night party. It's how your brand comes alive from print to digital to out of home to billboards to however you're doing it. That's how a brand tells their story as it relates to the event production process. And I can tell you, there are a lot of events who do this very, very well. There's a lot of events who do this not so well. And as event producers, we aspire to get our brand out, especially if we're in-house planning versus being an agency side. It's our job to make the most amount of people know who the brand is that they're coming to the event for. And a very quick story I'll tell just about this. We just did an event. Our last big event for Intuit was in May and June this past year. It's called Get Connected. It's like a 3-event series across the country. I was responsible for all the branding and signage and everything else. I can tell you that the most amount of criticism that I got from the planning process, from our SLT, from our, director and level above, is how are we showing up as a brand on print, on signage, in the app branding. That was the number one question, was when people are going to come to the event, how will they know who we are and what we do? And we told that story through the art of branding the event, pre, during, and post.
Oh, post. You mentioned post. No one ever mentions post.
That's the secret sauce for events.
Shenandoah, could you talk about either post or just the power of event branding in general?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the event branding, and I think you said it with digital, right? Like everything is digital. We are using digital tools more and more. I mean, I've worked in tech for almost 15 years, right? Obviously, software is very important. But I think that overall, we're really dealing with people wanting to connect. People, like, there's a loneliness epidemic. And I think that sometimes we either don't want to talk about the fact that corporate events actually bring people together and is actually a meaningful place for people to connect, because I think that people feel a little ashamed and don't want to admit that that's how they actually get their socialization, right? Like, work is so social, right? It's, however many hours of our day is taken up by work, right? And when you're producing events for passionate people who care about their customers and care about their businesses, you can bring that energy together in the room, and there's nothing that is going to work on someone's emotions like an event, right? Video can do it, storytelling can do it, but when you're in that room and using all of those elements together, that's when people get goosebumps. That's when they remember those things. And the often misquoted, like, people will remember how you made them feel. And that's really what you're doing at the event, right? Like, how do you want your brand to make people feel? And your event is going to tell that to people. And post event is so important. Everyone wants to think like, oh, as soon as the event's over, the event planner packs it in and maybe sends a survey. But really, that's when the real work is kind of starting for maybe not necessarily the planner themselves, but your teams, right? So if it's a prospect event, your sales team needs to know exactly what they're doing following that event. Your marketing team needs to know, how are we engaging with these folks? Like, how do we continue the buzz? Like, because we know when people are on site, they're feeling it. They've got the buzz in the air. They're, they got the fun swag. They've, been inspired. They've met great people. You don't want to leave, like, have them up a high and then just drop them off and then forget about them and then send them an email 3 months later being like, sign up for the next event. Like, no, you need to have that journey from the beginning, middle, and end of your event. And in theory, should loop back around to your next event, right? So those prospects, are they converting? If they're not converting, what happens to them? If they're customers, so like a user conference, what are you doing afterwards? Are you upselling them? Are you like, is that your opportunity to go back to them and say, hey, when we were on site, you were mentioning that you were struggling with this. Let's set up some time and make sure that your team knows how to use this effectively, right? That's when the rest of your team should be able to reap the benefits of all the hard work that went into the event.
Hold on, sorry, I couldn't. I was going to unmute myself, and I became elderly and couldn't figure out how to unmute myself. I want, before we get into the question, Shauna, I just want to ask a quick question. May I ask a quick question that's off the script?
By all means.
Thank you.
Wait, just before you go, do we have to predicate all of our questions by asking Sean if we can ask another question? I just want to make sure I understand how the process of this podcast works.
Yes.
Okay, just now I understand. Thank you.
Sean is my boss. I must ask him permission.
Absolutely not. My boss is our guest.
And he told you that he is your boss.
Shenandoah is my boss.
In a way, that's your
So an area that I am absolutely obsessed with and fascinated with, and I know nothing about, which is an interesting combination, is Doa, you mentioned it, with how it makes you feel and what is the strongest human component of how something makes you feel, which is smell. And scent branding.
Huge.
Is so interesting to me. Do you guys have any experience in that?
I do, actually. So I've done events where we've incorporated all 5 senses into events, and not just on your buffet or your coffee station or whatever. There was a trend, I'm going to say it was probably about 2017, 2018, where people in large conferences, like internal, like sales kickoffs or like internal conferences, they would pump into main rooms different scents that they wanted to get you to do things or focus more, or there was this whole trend for scent, right? And we tried it. It didn't really work, to be honest. A lot of people were like scent averted, they had scent aversion. and they came in. It's like when you go into a Westin hotel, like, you know, you're in a Westin hotel because you have a Westin hotel scent in the lobby.
So it's like
everybody
the third
knows
time
it.
The Westin hotel smell has come up in the last week.
Right? Everyone knows it. You know it. You know when you go into a Westin hotel because they pump the scent through the air vents, through the HVAC system, so that you can recognize that you're in a Westin hotel. It's literally like a gold star of branding, right? You know when you walk in, you have that smell, you know where you are. You know when you walk into a Fairmont hotel, you're in a Fairmont because you can smell the Fairmont smell. Like, they have these hotel chains, massive hotel chains, have invested lots and lots of money and research into what scent works and how they want to deploy that. And so there was a trend in events that we used it for, like, you know, we had people at some point, you know, in the last couple of years, we had people come in for an opening experience, close your eyes and just listen to the soundscape that we've built in the room through binaural audio, which is 360-degree audio. So if you're hearing, like, you know, you're watching a video of somebody walking through like a central square, let's say, as they walk towards, let's say there's a 3-piece orchestra playing something on the side of the road, as you walk towards it in the video, the sound goes from in front of you to behind you and to back, and then it goes off in the distance. That's called binaural audio. So there was a whole thing that, like, I've played around with that for a couple of years. So using the 5 cents for events, I think, is something that people do very surface level. There is so much information out there that you could go deep and do it, but I just don't think big brands and big events like do that because there's a need for it. But there's definitely things that are happening, maybe not on the surface, that have to do with utilizing 5 senses at events.
That's awesome. Doa, do you have any experience with that, or do you not want to talk about it?
Not as specifically as Evans mentioned. I know, like, you do think about, like, even like the buffet, like when I'm planning it and you're thinking like, oh, like, is that, like, do I really want to serve that? And know what that's going to mean for this space. And like, I think also as you see more wellness activations and wellness come in, like, I mean, most hotels I stay in now, like, that are kind of a 4-star level, all have like a pillow spray, right? And so, like, how are you incorporating that? And I think there's a lot of opportunity too, depending on like what your theme is, right, to use scent. So like, are you trying to transport people to a beach? Like, you know, put that coconut in there, right?
Yeah.
Or you're trying to give some people like nostalgia, or like, I used to work at Colonel's in high school, the popcorn store. And we used to literally make popcorn because we knew that we could sell popcorn if we made popcorn because it would smell so good, and people would come through the mall and be like, I could smell it and I had to buy it. So like, you know, there is a way to use scent and other like 5 senses. It's just, you know, how do you build it into your event, and also not just do it to do it.
Well, just building on that really quickly, like, you look in, and this is like not events at all, but like, you look in the real estate world, when people do open houses, real estate agents will pre-bake chocolate chip cookies in the oven and then not actually have them out, to have that smell of like feeling like you're at home, like with your mom's like cookies in the oven. It's like that nostalgia, that like warm feeling, to make potential buyers come in and want to buy the house because they have that smell of nostalgia of being at home, of that like home cooking, that chocolate cookie smell. And so you can totally leverage that across industry to like how it can affect our world, which is like, depending on like, you know, like Doa said, like your theme and everything, like how that all plays together, what you want to invoke people to be thinking about, to be smelling, to be hearing, to be tasting. Like, I was at an event a couple of months ago where like there was 800 people seated lunch at a conference, and they served tilapia. And like, I don't know about you, but like, tilapia is not my go-to for 800 people. And like, the smell of tilapia in a room is like, not a lot of people like it, to be honest. And like, it was a definitely like interesting choice of the event to choose that as the main course for a lunch for 800 people. But it was memorable
because it smelled like
in a good way. Not in a good way.
It's funny when I
like,
was talking about what I don't want on my buffet.
But it was memorable.
It's tilapia.
Right. But it was memorable, right? So like, maybe that's why they did it. But like, you know, it's like, what did you remember about the conference? Like, the room smelled like tilapia all day, right? Like, but like, it's part of that invoking of your senses.
That's
Thank you.
that's wild. I was hungry until you mentioned the smell of 800 pieces of fish, and then suddenly it vanished. So I appreciate you. Yeah,
Depends what your
no,
vibe is.
it's not 800 pieces of fish. I'm not a big seafood guy, so yeah,
Yeah.
you lost me. And a vegetarian here, I'm sure as well. You guys have seen everything. Oh, what still shocks you? What surprises you? Shenandoah gets to go
There's a
first
lot
because
that
she's got
there's
to
a
laugh
lot.
this one through,
You go
and then
first. You go first.
No, because it's like, I mean, there's things I can say on a podcast,
so what about
and
the
there's things
industry
that I
shock
can't say on
surprises
a
you?
podcast.
I feel like this is a safe space. This is a safe space. I feel
Yeah,
like.
it's just,
We got no sponsors except
put
Charmin,
it out on the internet.
Charmin, Rice-A-Roni, Taylor Swift, and Me Undies. Those are
I don't know
our
how we
4
picked up
sponsors.
MeUndies, but
They
I'm
don't
proud
care
that
what
we
you
did.
say.
What surprises
So,
you?
sorry, the
Yeah,
question
within,
is,
within the industry.
what
What
shocks me in the
surprises you?
industry? I think that, and you guys sent some questions ahead of time, so I might be getting ahead of myself here, but I think the desire to latch on to the way things used to be, and like this need to, oh well, we did it this way, and like this is what attendees expect, and this is what, and it's like, and it's a little bit of the industry, and it's a little bit of stakeholders, and and it is starting to shift, but this like clinging to like sessions that don't work, to sessions that are over an hour long, like, we need to be honest about what events are going to look like now and going forward. Like, we live in the TikTok generation, we live in, things moving quickly, and people do not want to sit and be spoken to for an hour. They're just not doing it, right? Like 45 minutes, you're really starting to push it. And so I think like that's what's surprising me is, when I talk to planners, and it's usually not the planners I know, because the planners I know are cool, but they tell me about people who are like, oh, well, no, we can't change that. And it's like, can you not, or do you just not want to? I think is the distinction that needs to be made.
So I'm going to go in a different direction with my answer. I'm going to go with the positive side of what I'm shocked about. I am surprised every day by how the events industry has changed post-COVID from a competitive industry to a collaborative industry. And so I'll expand just a little bit on that. So before COVID, it was like, who do I have to outbid to win the business? And when you're in an RFP for an event as an agency, let's say, and you have your partners that are coming in with you for that RFP, you're like the quarterback, and you're like bringing in all the people, and you're doing it all right as the event producer. It's your team against the other team, right? Like, it's you against the other agency that's bidding on the show. And it was very competitive. And on site at trade shows, it was like, I'm going to outdo the trade show booth beside me because I'm going to give out this piece of swag and not that piece of swag. And it was like, how can I outperform you? And how can I steal business from you? And whatever. Since COVID, it's been like, how can we work together for the good of the industry and the good of the client at the end of the day, whoever that is? And like, a lot of people that used to compete with each other, in the AV world, and venue side, and, DMCs, like destination management companies, like, we've seen a massive shift from competitive to collaborative and cooperative. And to me, that is the most amazing change that every day I'm like amazed by, because I remember the days of like, you worked for, AV company A, and you had to undercut everyone else to get the business, or you were a, printer, like a vinyl floor guy, and you had to do it for 10% cheaper to win the business. And now it's like, I want the best person to do my event, and whatever that means, like, let's work together and like find common ground and make it so everyone is winning and everyone gets a piece of the pie, versus me getting the whole pie and you getting nothing. And so that to me has been like a huge shift and is like an amazing transformation of the industry.
I love talking to Canadians.
That's funny.
You don't hear what me and Doa talk about on her podcast. It would not sound the same.
A little less chill.
But I will say, like, I am a planner who is based in Canada, but
you do a lot of your work in
the
the
majority
US.
of my events are in the US.
Yes.
The majority of the planners I know are in the US or in the UK. And Evan's right. Like, you know, and Evan said this on my podcast in 2021 or something, and it stuck with me of the people that are still in the industry. And this is not in a way to talk badly about people who left the industry during COVID. It was a very difficult time and people had to do what they had to do. But the ones that kind of came through and doubled down on it are really committed to the industry. And, you know, we're kind of seeing like, hey, we all had each other's back in a really bad time. And so how can we have each other's back going forward? And like he said, it doesn't need to be competition. And I'm not coming from the agency side and have never had that experience. But my vendors, I'm not always choosing the cheapest one. I'm choosing the one that I know is going to either be able to meet my deadlines or is going to help me when something goes wrong. Like I've got a vendor who like is literally on my Slack because I talk to him so frequently, and he helps me fix problems that are not up to him to fix. But I'll just say, hey, like I'm missing this shipment. Can you send me the tracking number? And then like an hour later, he's like, I talked to this guy. It's over here. It's on its way there. And I'm like, well, I was just looking for the tracking number to go like tell someone and show services, right? So I think, you know, Evan's right. Like it is so much more about collaboration, and, you know, we kind of borrow ideas from each other, and we know the industry is flourishing in a way that we know it's not going anywhere. And I think, you know, for a while people were so competitive because it was like, it's eat or be eaten, and it's like there's not enough work for everyone, but there is. And companies, even in down times, are still recognizing the importance of their in-person events. And so it's just sometimes you gotta, you know, make adjustments, but it's, you know, having that right circle of industry colleagues that'll get
I
you
want to be
through it.
mindful of the clock because you guys, we only booked you for a half hour, and I know you're both pretty busy. Do you have another 5 minutes, or?
I got
Yeah, well, you
all
got
the
one
time
foot
in the
out the
world.
door. Shenandoah less so.
Don't say that.
We
Let's
could
edit.
we
We'll do
could
that.
edit
We
that
can
part
edit
out.
that line out.
That much I'll do for you, kid.
But yes, I do
Okay,
have.
but
I have
we'll leave
time.
it to one or two
I have a while.
more questions.
Can we
Yeah,
do
I
the
want
hot
to
take?
I want to focus on.
Can we
So
do
really,
the
our
hot
last two
take?
questions are about, and I'll let Alicia ask one for sure, but about a hot take from your industry, because Evan, I know you don't have any of those. I've heard several on
No.
your other appearances. So a hot take that your colleagues might disagree with from the industry, and really what advice you would give to somebody who's looking to kind of come up in the field. Alicia, feel free to orchestrate the conversation and control the madness from there.
No, I really want to talk about the hot take because I think hot takes is such a key piece to season 3 with having two guests in the same field, different people. So, Doa, I'll start with you. What's a hot take you have that you think Evan or other folks might disagree with you on with event marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to it earlier of, you know, reimagining your schedule, reimagining the way that your events happen. And I think the hot take is, I don't know how hot of a take this is, but I think it's, you know, maybe a tough pill to swallow for some folks of like, we really need to be doing events based on data. And the data, you know, it's imperfect. It's never going to be perfect on like the ROI and you know, other factors, but we can't keep running events on vibes, right? Like we need to be running events that have a clear goal. And I know, I don't think Evan's going to think this is a hot take, but I think it's more outside of the industry of, well, we do this event because so-and-so loves it. The customers love it. It's a good time. And it's like, yeah, sure. Everybody loves to go to a hockey game or go on some great event experience. But if you really don't have an actual plan for that before, during, and after, don't bother doing it. Don't do events just to do it. I had someone recently say to me, he was working on a committee who was struggling with an event that they had been running for a long time. And he's like, no offense, but I don't think we should do events just to do them. I'm like, that is not offensive to me. It offends me to do events just to do them. So
Yeah.
I think we'll see as we go on and people are investing in events that they will get more strategic, that they won't just be like, oh, well, last year we went for 2.5 days and had this many sessions and this many breakouts and a welcome reception and an awards dinner. Oh, that's my hot take. Awards dinners. I'm done with them.
There you go.
Circled around. I got there in the end.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think that awards should necessarily go away. I think that for the amount of money that you spend on that piece of tilapia, you can do so many better things and have a better impact and find other ways to insert your awards into your events. There's my hot take. I'm curious what Evan thinks on that one.
Donate the money. Donate how much? 800 pieces of tilapia. Donate it to charity, for crying out loud.
Well, and you can, like I said, you can reinvent what that looks like, right? So include your awards as part of your programming and then take that money to do something that's a little more interesting, right? Like, do we really need to sit through another like salad, chicken course, pasta for Alicia, because that's what the vegetarian meal is going to be, and then a piece of cheesecake? I don't know. Is that inspiring? Is that exciting? Is it? I don't know. Evan, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more with you. We very much think similarly in a lot of ways. I was actually just looking for my hot take. It was a comment that I left on an industry expert posts a lot on LinkedIn, and I was just trying to find it because I didn't want to mess up what I wrote on his post. So the post was basically about attendee registration for events. And the post basically was saying that, majority of people register within a week of an event's starting date. And what does the industry think about that? And so my comment and my hot take, and I think Doa will agree with this, but we'll find out in 30 seconds. My hot take for the industry is that attendees who register after the event starts should not be allowed to come to the show. And I'll say that because if you can't make up your mind till after the show starts, somebody who does and who wants to be there ahead of time and who has registered properly should be given your spot. And the late registrations and people registering the week of events will never change. Unfortunately, it's a residual effect of COVID, of people doing too many things and having too many distractions, and people working at home and I have dinner cooking upstairs in the oven, and so I have to go check on the oven and I can't be at that event, or I have to take my kid to the doctor and I didn't know about that till this morning, and that will never change. So the late registrations will never change. What we can change as an industry is if you can't, and forgive my language, if you can't get your shit together to know that you can make it to the event before the event starts, you're not welcome at this event. Because how many people in my ICP am I looking to have register that if I hold the spot for people that have they're registering after the event starts and I'm talking about multi-day events here. I'm not talking about one-day events or a 1-hour session. I'm talking about multi-day, 4 or 5 day virtual or in-person events. If you're waiting to day one to see how day one goes or who's speaking because they don't announce it till the beginning of that first day, I don't want you at my event, because you're wasting space. And you're wasting space for people who actually want to be there, regardless of what happens day one, but who have committed to the event beforehand and have committed their time, whether that's travel time or at home or at the office time, away from their day-to-day work and away from their job responsibilities. The people that commit to me ahead of time, they get the spots. And the people who do it after the event starts, honestly, you can go F off.
Sorry, hold on just a second, guys.
How's that hot?
Scalding. You don't want to be there. I don't want you.
I mean, listen, like I've seen it. I've seen it happen. It happened to us. It's happened to me in multiple occasions. It's just not like it's just a lack of respect for the event, for the people that produce the event, for the sponsor of the event, for the partners. Like it's just you should as a working professional, you should be able to know if you can come to an event or not. And I get last minute things change and whatever. Canceling a registration is no problem. Transferring your registration before the event, I'm good with it. But if you're waiting till that first day to see what's happening, like, no, thank you.
So I'm going to say something shocked. I didn't know people were waiting. I thought they were just that disorganized. I mean, I will say that, and I posted about this on Instagram, and Evan's right. Like, especially since COVID, I think part of it was a bit of people were hesitant to commit to traveling. And, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to buy this ticket. And then I have to buy this flight and then buy this hotel. And then I have to cancel all that. Like, it was very stressful. And so people were waiting longer and longer because they're like, oh, okay, we're like, 4 weeks out. Things are okay. And then now that's kind of trickled into just like the norm of like, well, the event planners always figure it out, right? And there is some like statistic that like I use in measuring like, okay, if I have this many people 90 days before or 60 days before, this is like what I can expect. I'd also say like, and I think part of it is that we just get too much communication in general. Like my inbox, like my LinkedIn, my work email, my personal email, like at my Instagram, like it's like, it is a lot of information. And so, to stand out in the noise is very challenging. And I'd also say, and was one of my kind of hotter takes on Instagram, I guess, of we also need to make sure that we're selling the value of the event to attendees. And not just like, well, we're having this event, you should sign up, right? Like if an attendee is not coming and they're your ICP, why aren't they coming, right? Like, is it the time of year? And like we've done that in previous companies of like calling up big customers to say, hey, like, we're a couple weeks out, we expected to see you there, and they'll kind of say like, oh, well, the timing didn't work, or we had already committed to something else, and kind of getting that anecdotal feedback that you might not get in general. I don't know, I'm probably never going to kick anybody out of my event.
No, you'll hire Evan to do it
for showing up late, because
you'll hire Evan to do it. He'll come boot
sorry
camp.
I'll get Evan to do it, yeah. But it's not ideal, right? And I think like I've also had recently a lot of people being like, well, I'm only interested in this day. And I'm like, well, like, that's not really how it works. Or like, and this is another thing that's been coming up of like, well, I don't drink, and so like I shouldn't pay as much for my ticket. And it's like, well,
that's so
but like
minimal percentage.
But it's like also like,
the
special meal costs more, but I'm not charging that person more, right? Like it is just like it's one pool, right? So like as much as people want to customize their experience, like realistically, like I don't want to sell you a ticket for one day, because to Evan's point, then someone who could have used it for the full 3 days isn't going to be able to use it because I've now had to hold this seat for you for that one day. I mean, I don't like to tell people, I will tell people registration closes on this date. Internally, I say registration closes when I'm shutting down registration, right? But exactly. I think it goes also to what the goal of the event is too, right? Like, is it just that you need, if that person is your ICP and maybe doesn't know it yet, or maybe is on the fence, like you want to still give them that great experience. But it is something like we need to work on as an industry and as a marketing team of like, why should people come to this event, right? And why should they come to it over other industry conferences? Why should they come to it over or doing nothing, right? Yeah. Like, and just saying, oh yeah, maybe next year.
100%. That why is a big piece to it. Also, just like to go on that a little bit, a lot of it, and I was talking to a couple of people this week about this. It was like the last couple of years have been like focused conversations more on the what, the where, the when, the how. I think the last 18 months to a year or so ago from now back, the conversations have really shifted in event production to why. Like, why are we doing this event? Why are we doing it in Vegas? Why are we doing it in December? Why are we doing it with a vegetarian meal option only? Why? Like, the why question has come up where it was never, it was like in the realm of conversation, but it wasn't the focus. And I think now there's been a shift to instead of like execution focus, to like really understand why we're doing an event, why we're doing it, where we chose to do it, like questioning more of the executional tactics versus just like Doa said in the beginning, doing it because we did it last year and because we did it this way and because that's what our president or CEO will pay for us to do, but really be able to question everything about from the ground up and like really be able to do things for a purpose and with meaning and with substance behind it versus just we did the buffet and the chicken and potatoes last year, so we're gonna have chicken and potatoes this year again.
Yeah, and I think too, like I've said this to like folks on my team, because everybody always has an opinion on what you should add to the event. Like they want this activation, they want this type of padding, they want this type of outfit, they want this type of this. And I always tell them, I'm like, just because you don't know the why, I can tell you why to every single aspect of this event. Every single part of this event, I could tell you why. Maybe it's budget, maybe it's time, maybe it's a decision that, is based on a why of something else. But every single aspect of this, I could tell you why. You might not like the answer, but it is the reality. And you'll never come to me and say, well, why did we do it this way? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. But that's, I think, what people think. And it's like, no. Like, we did that this way so that next time we could do it that way, or so that you could do this on site, or so that I could take this budget from something. Like, everything you look at, everything the light touches has an answer to the question why. So
waiting for the Lion King joke here.
I was just thinking about
waiting
that.
for it.
So
we should definitely
wrap up soon.
But
I would argue that asking why would be a key piece of information we would want to provide to up and coming event marketers. Any other quick bits of advice you would give, Evan?
Go to event industry events, meet people, talk to people, find people on LinkedIn that you can connect with. That's the best way to learn about the industry. Like there's school programs for events. Honestly, in my mind, they're kind of useless. Like you don't actually get what you need to do your job day to day in a classroom. You need to be in the industry, meeting people, doing stuff. Go volunteer at an event as a code check person, or go be a room runner that's running a microphone in a breakout session. Like get into the events in person or virtually, either one works, but like just meet people and schmooze with people and get to know the key thought leaders in the industry of whatever your industry you're in, and really dig in to as many people as you can find that will give you any kind of advice or support or mentorship that you can find.
Love that.
Love it. No,
Sean?
this has been phenomenal. The two of you know each other, and so you know each other's buttons, and it's you have an advantage there. But it is really neat to hear different sides of a coin and how this all kind of fits together and how it works. So, thank you both for making the time. I appreciate it so very much, and I think our listeners will as well. So I'm grateful.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Evan and I, we should just start our own, like,
we could continue this
full
conversation all
hours and
day.
hours, just like
I was gonna say I didn't think
ranting back and forth. But then a lot of it could never.
I didn't think there was
A lot
an
of it
end
could
time.
never see the light of day. So
I didn't think there was an end time for this recording session.
Eventually, one of us has to go make money. I don't know which
It just
one.
goes on.
my last piece of advice will be find your people. Find your people like Evan. Find your people that you can bounce ideas off of. Yes, you're the mentors in the industry, but also it can feel really lonely, especially when you're the only event manager, you're the only person, you're making a difference in your industry, or in your companies, but find the people that you can go tell those crazy stories to that you can't talk about on a podcast, because it'll make you feel better of like, oh my God, I'm not alone in this like little bit of craziness. So.
And I'll just add one super last thing that's relevant to that point. Before 2021, I was like, no idea anything about like content that was out there online. Since then, I've been like on different industry podcasts. I've done like, I think I was just telling someone I've done like 27 or so as a guest since 2021. 3 were on Beyond the BEO. But like, it's such a great platform to like, even if you're not a guest on a podcast, like find industry content, find podcasts, find YouTube videos, find like on-demand content from events that you want to go to or couldn't go to. Like find what's out there from a content perspective and just immerse yourself in event content so that when you get to those in-person events and you're at those industry events, you can talk the talk with people that are there, and you can feel, if you're brand new or you've been doing it for 20 years, you can feel and you will feel empowered that you know what you're talking about, so you can have those conversations to grow your industry and to grow your network in that industry, because that's all you have is your network, and that's who will be there for you when you need them, and that's who you can bounce ideas off of, and that's who you can get a job from, or that's who you can, get that next project from if you're an independent or a freelancer. So it's all about just like immersing yourself in as much of the industry, regardless of what industry you're in, that you can possibly do.
Awesome. Well, let's stop it there. You guys hang on 30 seconds so we can make sure we're all recorded. But on behalf of all of us at Brandon and the Beast, thank you so much for watching, for listening, for sticking with us into season 3, and who knows, maybe there's even a beyond. You can find all of us. So where can we find all of you? Let's go through that. So Shanondoah Nicholson, your podcast is Beyond the BEO. Yeah, that's the one.
Beyond the BEO, an industry podcast. You can also find me on Instagram at Beyond the BEO, and I believe I'm the only Shanondoah Nicholson on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me there.
I'm on LinkedIn, on Instagram at Evan Babins. LinkedIn, I think I'm the only Evan Babins as well. I'm all over the place. I'm always down to have conversations with people about good things, events or not. I'm always around, so I'm everywhere, and you'll find me. If you're looking, you'll find me.
I don't know if I'm the only person. I'm the only Alicia DeSantis on LinkedIn, but you can certainly give it a shot and search for me. 38th and Kip. That's 38 TH and Kip KIP. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn. Where else am I? That's it. 38thandkip.com.
I am not the only Sean Bernstein, because there is a roofer in Tampa, Florida, and I keep getting all his email, but that's a whole other episode. But you can find the Sean Bernstein with some red hair left. And on LinkedIn, you can find me as The Right Stuff Agency everywhere. I'm going to be more on LinkedIn as The Right Stuff Agency, I promise. WRITE. I'm on Instagram as The Right Stuff Agency. I'm on Facebook as The Right Stuff Agency. I'm around. Find me. Let's talk. Let's tell your story. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. This was fantastic.
Thank you.